Hi, my friends. Welcome to this edition of the Broadcast, where we give you bite-sized bits of best practices to help you be a better leader and a more effective communicator. Today is the 31st of March, 2020. I'm Gerard Braud, and this is one of those COVID-19 coronavirus updates for you. And I've been getting this question from a lot of you these days. How do I get my boss to listen? What's happening is executives are also asking what they should do in the way of communications. And I've been coaching a lot of them, but some of them will listen to advice. Some of them don't know what to do. Some of them, quite frankly, are paralyzed. They're in decision paralysis or paralysis by analysis. A few days ago, I talked about ABC, always be communicating, and how it's important to give bits of information at a time. And what I've been sharing with many CEOs and what they've been sharing with me, first of all, they share with me the idea that there are too many uncertainties and they're afraid to communicate because conditions will change and those conditions are beyond their control. And my advice to all of you who are executives is that's exactly right. Do not promise a single thing. Do not promise that you will resume something by a certain date. Make no promises. State the facts as you know them to be true. And often that fact would be something along the lines of, these are uncertain times. You have tough questions. I wish I had answers. I don't have those for you. Then explain what you know now. Then explain what you do not yet know. And that makes for perfect communications. Now, to the PR people and the communicators who are trying to share that advice and their boss doesn't want to listen, what do you do? In the 5 steps of effective crisis communications, step 1 is a vulnerability assessment. If you're not familiar with the 5 steps of effective crisis communications, go here in this YouTube channel, the Broadcast, B-R-A-U-D, Broadcast. Go to the first 6 weeks of January and I cover all 5 steps of effective crisis communications in detail. But step 1 is a vulnerability assessment. And as you assess what could go wrong, you then build a crisis communications plan in step 2 to gather information, confirm information, and disseminate information. And then in step 3, create pre-written statements that you can use in a moment's notice to communicate. Steps 1, 2, and 3, assess your vulnerabilities, build a crisis communications plan, and build a library of pre-written news releases. It is not too late to do any of this stuff. And there are people like me who are standing by to help you. I can crank out some of this stuff for you in as little as 2 days because I've been doing it so long. So the tools are there and the techniques are there, but you now have to convince your boss that it has to be done or should be done. And the words that you should use is to focus on how it affects revenue, reputation, and brand for the organization. Revenue, reputation, and brand. Do not talk about reputation management alone. It has to be tied to the revenue of the organization. And many organizations are going to be affected seriously in many serious ways because of this pandemic. So in addition to that, you can make a list for your executive, or executives, you can do this yourself. Make a list. Reasons why I should communicate and reasons why I shouldn't communicate. And let that list, that comparison of the two, tell you what you should do. Ultimately, I think you do need to be communicating in short bites and little tidbits of information as you know it. Keep the information coming. The communique doesn't have to be outrageously long. In fact, it kind of needs to be in bite-sized bits like we try to do here on the Broadcast. Bite-sized bits so that people can consume it without it boring them to tears. So those are my tips for executives, and those are my tips for PR people who are afraid that their boss won't listen to them. This is the Broadcast. I'm Gerard Braud. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing, and I pray that you are well.